A deal on Dickens, who could resist? A stack of Austen, warmly kissed. Golden Age crime tales twist and turn, every page a treasure to learn. Books keep coming home with me, piles so tall they're all I see. Turn a page and sail the sea, reading always feels so free.
Hi, my name is Talia. Welcome to Talia Nerds Out. Yes, I am high on energy today, and I am just going with it. I am doing multiple videos back to back. For whatever reason, I have a lot of energy. I don't know why. I'm probably going to crash tomorrow, but we are going with it now. Because usually when I have this much energy, I get a big crash afterwards. It's just the way that my nervous system works. It has something to do with my fight or flight being messed up. But it does mean that I get these really awesome high energy moments once in a while, which I love and I like to take advantage of when I have them. It's also when my family generally tells me that I talk too much. When that happens, that's when they say I will go into my, they generally will say that I filibuster. This is why I have a booktube, because no one wants to hear me talk that much. But currently, I'm going to talk too much about this book. This was, oh, I'm so glad I read this book. I will reread this book. This book will be staying where I can access it. This is My Dearest Friend, Letters of Abigail and John Adams. I ended up doing this as a buddy read starting January 1st. Was it January? I think we started January. I did it with Ariane of Booksellets. And this is the Letters of Abigail and John Adams. And it is just an amazing book. I love their relationship so much. There are points, yes, I wrote in the margin and stuff, but there are points where I didn't necessarily even have anything to say, and I was just like, oh, this is cute, heart. Because it's just, their relationship was just lovely. And I already like John Adams from previous books that I've read with him in it. From the first book that I read that I ended up having to pick up because I had initially just borrowed it from the library via Libby. But I enjoyed the book so much, and ever since I borrowed the book, and I want to say I read it like 2 years ago, maybe more than that. I think it was more like 2 years ago. I still think about that book because it just stuck with me. And because it stuck with me and I would just keep thinking about it, I finally just picked it up because I was like, obviously, I'm going to reread this book. I love this book. And that book was called John Adams Under Fire. And so that was the first book I read about John Adams, about how he was a defense lawyer for the British soldiers during the Boston Massacre. Great book. Check it out. But that's not the book we're talking about right now. I also have the John Adams book that I will be reading when it gets to that point for the David McCullough read-along. Information in the description. But prior to that, I read another excellent book. I think I read it last year, biography of Dr. Benjamin Rush, who was a really good friend of John Adams. They wrote letters back and forth to the point where their wives teased them about it towards the end because they would get so excited to find each other's letters in the mail. And actually, we have Abigail's writing, I believe, where she talked about how she saw John go out to the mailbox and look disappointed because there was no letter from his buddy, Dr. Rush. But when he did open up the letter he had there from one of Dr. Rush's students, it was to let him know that Dr. Rush had died. So he went from being like really disappointed that he hadn't heard from his friend because he thought he was just like taking forever to write him to finding out that he was dead and actually already buried. But so that was my second, kind of side exposure to John Adams through the Benjamin Rush story. This one, oh, I love this so much. Abigail is awesome. And actually, she had some, like, really, some of the things that you see her say about women's rights or abolitionist movement were really forward thinking for the time period. And I mean, John teases her a bit about some of her statements about women's rights, but on the other hand, he will also greatly praise her intelligence. Now, it's kind of sad how when you read about how they had to be parted for quite a bit of their marriage, and I'm trying not to give away too many big details about some things in their story. You really do have to find it out for yourself. But they spent a good portion of their marriage separated. First, when he was in the Continental Congress, so he would be in Philadelphia during the war for quite a period of time. Then when he was sent overseas as ambassador, first to France, then to England. I want to say then he went to, was it Sweden? I always forget what the other place was. I think it was Sweden. But they had nicknames for each other. She used to sign quite a few of her letters Portia. It's a reference to, I want to say it's Merchant of Venice. It's Shakespeare. I've not read a ton of Shakespeare, but I want to say when I looked it up, it was Merchant of Venice, which I did read. It's just I read it in high school, and that was a long time ago. And before that, they also would refer to each other as, I'm trying to find one of their early letters, because she slipped into Portia. They did that more throughout their marriage. But early in their marriage, they have others. Let's see. Now the first, I know what it was. He would during their courtship, he referred to her as his Diana. And she would either sign her letters as Diana or much later as Portia, which is what she did. Yeah, it is Merchant of Venice, which is what she did for most of her marriage, is she would refer to herself as Portia. And even sometimes you'd see him at times referring to her as Portia in the letters, which is really adorable. But the first letter we have from him is, he starts it by saying, Miss Adorable. That's the very first letter we have from him, is he calls her Miss Adorable. That's how he addresses it. And then he signs a couple of letters, Philander, to the great goddess Diana. So they make a lot of references throughout their letters to literature. They'll make references to mythology, the Bible. They were both very well educated, even though their spelling was not consistent, but that was of the era. Spelling and punctuation generally wasn't consistent back then. And I'm glad that they kept that in this book here. I know that David McCullough made a different choice when he went for Teddy Roosevelt's book, that he decided to correct the spelling unless it was pertinent to the letter. And I kind of wish that he had maintained the inaccuracies of spelling and punctuation like they did for these letters, because it's kind of cool to see how they actually expressed themselves. It's the next best thing to actually having the letter in front of you. But there's just so much. I'm just glancing over my notes here that I stuck in the pages. "'Tis true I never close my eyes at night till I've been to Philadelphia, and my first visit in the morning is there." So she's talking about how she'd read his letters before she'd go to bed, and she'd read them when she'd get up in the morning. And this is quite a bit you know, this is decently in their marriage. They have several kids already at this point. I'm trying to find, I have notes like stuck throughout here. I need to do a better job of raising them a little bit so I can find them a little better. Because I know I have more than that in here. Now this one's John to Abigail. I am as impatient to see you as I used to be 20 years ago. Every once in a while we're missing letters from one or the other that the, you know, like John will write about a letter that he received, but we don't have her letter, or vice versa. Some of their letters did get intercepted and published in England, which was not the best experience for either of them. Oh, did I put all my notes in one spot? Maybe? No. I know I have more notes in this. It's interesting, you have in here also what just his views on, they're both of their views on different kinds of religion. Like, you can tell John is a bit disdainful of the Catholic faith, but he also feels like he kind of tells Abigail hush hush, like, hey, we're going with Charles Carroll and, is it John Carroll? One of them was a priest. One of them was a wealthy landowner. I want to say Charles is a wealthy landowner. And I want to say Charles was the signer of the Declaration of Independence, where I think John actually ended up becoming a bishop. I used to know this. I haven't thought about the Carrolls in a long time. But I have a book on Charles Carroll, I think, that I need to read. But yeah, anyway, John was going up to Canada with them, and he is kind of telling, you know, Abigail to be hush hush about it because not everyone's going to understand, but like our Canadian brothers up there, they're not being able to get access to priests, and we just thought that we'd bring, you know, the priest up with us, but don't tell anybody that we're doing this. Like, they don't really like Catholics, but I feel like it's a good thing to do. So it's really interesting where, on the one hand, John, you know, definitely, he has a weird relationship. You read the thing, like, it talks about how he can almost feel the pull of the music and some of the ceremony, but he also has what probably comes from more of a maybe Puritan background because he is from that area. He's Massachusetts, so he does have that maybe more puritanical background where that anything that smacks of popery is, or I think they usually call potpourri, potpourri. Anyway, so it sounds like dried flowers, like potpourri. Anyway, I'm probably saying that wrong. But anything that smacks of that kind of feels a bit like, ugh. But on the other hand, he does acknowledge that the lack of rights, and he even mentions when he's in England for some anti-Catholic riots, how the lack of religious tolerance, it actually seems to bother him. So his feelings when it comes to the freedoms for Catholics is interesting because you can feel almost like he's conflicted in this area. And it might be that he wanted there to be the freedoms, but he just didn't have much of a high opinion of the faith itself. It's hard. It's just interesting when you see the letters back and forth, just how he expresses his opinions on this. But yeah, no, there's a lot here. They cover a wide variety of topics. Adrienne and I had a lot of conversations about child education in the time period, which led us on to other conversations. We had so much fun with this buddy read. This would have been a really good book to read anyway, just because of how many thought processes it took me down, how much it made me think. But it was even better because I had a really good buddy read companion in Ariane. So every time something would hit me, I'd be like writing our storygraph buddy read, like, hey, did you, like, what about this? And did this thought process hit you? And isn't it cool how this kind of applies to this now, or this part in history, or whatever? It was just really fun. Thank you, Ariane, for doing this buddy read with me. If you have not read John and Abigail's letters, there's so much here, just from the viewpoint of just history, just because, first of all, John was so intimately involved with so many different important events, for one thing. And because he was separated from Abigail for so much of his marriage, he has a ton of letters covering a period of time of so much import. And then also is the fact that it's just a beautiful love story that you get to have an inside look at because we have their letters. And so it's just so much to offer to so many different people. Don't miss out on John and Abigail. They're well worth getting to know. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope that I have convinced you that you need to get to know John and Abigail too. But I will see you for the next video. God bless. Bye.
Books keep coming home with me, piles so tall they're all I see. Turn a page and sail the sea. Reading always feels so free.